Good afternoon, everyone. The subcommittee will come to order. I want to thank you all for waiting for us, for one, but thank you all for joining us here today for our hearing entitled Veterans in Tech, Innovative Careers for All Generations of Veterans. As more service members continue to transition out of the military and into civilian life, it's important that we assist them into meaningful careers and not just into jobs. And while the unemployment rates among veterans continue to decline or remain stagnant, it's vital that we inform our transitioning service members and veterans of all ages of the career opportunities within all sectors of the economy, especially the ever-growing and unique opportunities within the tech sector. As startups and innovative businesses continue to inundate the economy more and more each day, we need to ensure that veterans are made aware of the job opportunities within this sector, as well as the sector's need and desire for veteran employees. We're highlighting the tech industry today because I know that the flexibility these jobs offer, as well as the skills needed to be successful in these careers, make veterans an obvious fit for these positions and trades. Furthermore, as Amazon highlighted in their written testimony, this field of work is also an optimal opportunity for military spouses to find a career that is flexible and portable for the lifestyle of a military spouse. These careers offer great opportunities that are much better than the temporary jobs that many military spouses are forced to take due to the mobility associated with military service. It's obvious that companies like the groups before us here today recognize the benefits of training and employing more veterans and the skills that they bring to the table. I believe, however, that more needs to be done at the outset as these men and women are first exiting the military to make them aware of what the tech space has to offer and their professional potential in these unique careers. We need to figure out how to connect these individuals to companies as well as get them into the necessary training programs to cover any skill gaps that may exist before entering the tech field. There's obviously a great potential in a working partnership between our nation's veterans and tech companies, but we need to better work together to make this connection happen as early as possible. While it's important that we continue to connect transitioning service members to these lucrative tech careers, we would be remiss if we didn't also address ways to connect older veterans to the opportunities that the tech industry has to offer. These veterans bring forth similar experiences and skills as many of our younger veterans do, and I hope that we can all work together and brainstorm ways to train and place veterans of all eras and of all ages into tech jobs. It's also important that as we discuss how to better recruit and retain veterans in this field, that we also ensure that we are not only placing a veteran in a job, but we're training them and honing their skills so they are promotable and can truly have a successful career in this ever-growing sector. So I look forward to our discussion this afternoon. I believe I speak for every member of this subcommittee when I say that we appreciate everything our four panelists here today are doing for the men and women who have served and your work to train, employ, and promote veterans within your companies. I will now yield to my colleague, Ranking Member Takano, for any opening statement he may have.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for holding this hearing today on how veterans can access careers in the high-growth tech sector of our economy. We know that many veterans are excellent prospects for these highly desirable jobs because of the skills and training they received in the military. Because tech jobs tend to be career jobs, we are here today to understand what the tech industry needs and wants in a full-time employee, how tech employees find qualified veteran prospects, what they're doing to support veterans after providing that pathway in, and what role the federal government should play in making tech sector opportunities available to more veterans, particularly veterans from the Gulf War and Vietnam War eras. I want to welcome the four witnesses this afternoon. I look forward to their testimony and the opportunity to ask questions. And I really want to thank the chairman for working with the minority in scheduling this hearing. I think it's going to be a great hearing this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Takano, and I agree with you. I now want to recognize our first and only panel of witnesses today. First, with us today, we have Mr. Bernard Bergen, a technical account manager for Microsoft, Mr. Brian Huseman, Vice President of Public Policy for Amazon, Vice Admiral Joseph Kernan, Chairman of NS2 Serves, and Mr. Todd Bowers, Director of Uber Military. Mr. Bergen, I want to thank you for your service in uniform in the United States Army, and let's begin with you. You have 5 minutes for your opening statement.
Thank you, Chairman Winstrup, Ranking Member Takano, and members of the subcommittee. My name is Bernard Bergen. I'm an Army veteran, a graduate of the Microsoft Software and Systems Academy, and currently work at Microsoft as a technical account manager. I'm also an example of how tech companies can make a significant impact on veterans by helping them discover meaningful career paths as they re-enter civilian life. Veterans face enormous challenges transitioning into the private sector. That's why 2 years ago, Microsoft launched the MSSA program, and I was one of the first graduates. Since then, we have announced that the program is expanding into 12 locations around the country, and Microsoft has pledged to train and find careers for 5,000 service members in the IT sector over the next 5 years. Like many other veterans, I didn't get here on my own. I have been fortunate to have some great mentors. When I was 12 years old, I moved from the United States Virgin Islands with my parents and brothers to Virginia, where I attended high school and graduated from Old Dominion University with a criminal justice degree. I then decided to pursue an opportunity in the United States Army. I'm proud to say I was on active duty from 2008 to 2014, serving all over the world, including an 11-month deployment in Afghanistan's Helmand province. My experience taught me the importance of teamwork and deeply instilled the value of selfless service and a commitment to excellence. I came home in May of 2013, and it was tough for me and my family because I didn't know where my next job would be. I was then introduced to the MSSA program by my commanding officer at Joint Base Lewis McChord, Colonel Charles Hodges. Colonel Hodges displayed leadership and took a chance on me. The intensive IT skills training, paired with a guarantee of a job interview with Microsoft, made the program my most attractive option. Working at Microsoft has been incredibly rewarding. Each day allows me to interact with passionate individuals who work to have a global impact as they innovate around solving problems. The teamwork, camaraderie, and expertise I enjoy here at Microsoft is similar to my time in the Army and makes me feel more at home than I could ever have imagined. The MSSA has also been good for my family. Once I settled into my new career, my wife was able to focus on hers. She's now headed back to school to pursue her MBA. Looking back, it is fair to say it has not been a particularly easy transition out of the military. I was uncertain about how I would know I was making the right career move. A transition from the military is a family affair. While much of my testimony has focused on veteran employment, it is also important to understand military spouse employment. Spouses make tremendous sacrifices, especially when their loved one is deployed. For its part, Microsoft recognizes that more must be done to help spouses. And to that end, the company will be establishing a community-based model of our MSSA that will offer evening courses, making them more available to working spouses who may want to make a career change. In conclusion, I'm so proud of the work the Microsoft Military Affairs team is doing to empower veterans like me with education and relevant skills training that leads to high-paying IT careers. It is past time for industry, government, and nonprofit leaders to give back to our veterans. I want to leave you with 3 observations. First, this program works. I am a testament to that. Second, it works because mentoring has proven to be a critical part of the MSSA program. And third, the MSSA program is attractive to service members because it provides relevant training that leads to meaningful, high-paying IT careers. Thank you again for the opportunity to testify this afternoon to provide a voice for those transitioning from the military back into civilian life. I look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Bergen. Mr. Huseman, you're now recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman Winstrup and Ranking Member Takano and other members of the subcommittee. My name is Brian Huseman, and I'm Amazon's Vice President of Public Policy. Thank you for holding this hearing on this important topic. I'd like to highlight 3 issues. First, Amazon's commitment to hiring veterans. Second, our commitment to training veterans once at the company, including our innovative Career Choice program. And finally, our recommendations for expanding jobs for veterans in the tech sector. First, Amazon is strongly committed to hiring veterans. Our mission is to be the world's most customer-centric company. And to accomplish this, we're constantly looking for leaders who can invent and think big or have bias for action and deliver results on behalf of our customers. And as you know, these principles look very familiar to the men and women who have served in the armed forces. Amazon actively recruits U.S. military veterans to fill roles across the company, from our corporate offices to our fulfillment network. Since 2011, we've hired over 10,000 veterans. And earlier this month, as part of the 5th anniversary of the Joining Forces Initiative, we announced that we will hire 25,000 additional veterans and military spouses over the next 5 years, the largest pledge of any technology company. We also recently pledged to train 10,000 service members, veterans, and military spouses in cloud computing, which offers a path to Amazon Web Services certification and industry-recognized certification program in this high-demand field. This training includes hands-on experiences with the Amazon Web Services platform, including free access to labs and a wide library of content for learning about the cloud. We believe this commitment is the smart thing to do for our veterans and military spouses, for Amazon, and for our hundreds of millions of customers. As a son and grandson of veterans, I'm excited to be a small part of hiring and training these incredible leaders. Second, our commitment to the military does not end once candidates are hired. Once employed at Amazon, we connect them with our internal employee network of veterans that we call the Amazon Warriors, which allows them to share experiences and receive mentoring and gain exposure to career and development opportunities. I also want to highlight our innovative Career Choice program, which is something we're very proud of. Veterans and military spouses in eligible Amazon roles can enroll in the Career Choice program, where we'll prepay 95% of tuition and fees for courses related to in-demand fields, and that's regardless of whether the skills are relevant to a career at Amazon. So we exclusively fund education in high-demand fields as determined by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. And so far, thousands of employees have participated in the Career Choice program, and our first Career Choice graduate is now a nurse in Kentucky. Finally, we have 2 principal recommendations we'd like to offer. First, we recommend that active duty service members have the opportunity to take advantage of private sector technical training program in fields like cloud computing before they depart from service, as they may not have had experience with the latest software and systems used by the private sector. Also, many separating service members are excellent candidates for careers in high tech, even though their backgrounds might not be technical. Without technical training before separation, they may never explore careers in the tech sector. Second, we recommend expansion of partnerships between the military and the private sector. One such program, Camo to Commerce, has been very successful in providing career development and jobs to service members transitioning out of the Joint Base Lewis McChord, which is in Amazon's home state of Washington. Our Amazon Web Services recruiters regularly seek out graduates of this training program, and we believe it should serve as a model for other military installations and communities. In conclusion, we're committed to hiring veterans and to pledge to hire an additional 25,000 over the next 5 years. We also have a strong commitment to training our veteran employees, and we're excited that some of them might participate in our innovative Career Choice education program. And we believe that more can be done to provide technical training before service separation and to increase partnerships with the private sector. Our veteran and military spouse employees are a tremendous asset for our company and our customers, and we're very excited to see what the next 25,000 will create over the next few years. So thank you for calling this hearing and inviting us to testify.
Well, thank you, Mr. Huseman. And Admiral Kernan, thank you for your many years of service in the Navy, and you're now recognized for 5 minutes.
Chairman Winstrup, Ranking Member Takano, and members of the subcommittee. My name is Joseph Kernan. I'm a retired Navy Vice Admiral. I'm currently the Senior Vice President of Corporate Development and Marketing at SAP National Security Services. It is an honor to be with you here today to testify in my other role as Chairman of NS2 Serves, a nonprofit training and employment program for veterans. My commitment to this issue stems from my 36-plus years of service in naval, special operations, joint, and interagency organizations, in combat, during disaster relief, or in peaceful conditions, but always serving alongside those that we are discussing today. I think we would all agree today, veterans who choose to devote a portion of their lives to protecting and serving our nation deserve opportunities to thrive in the civilian sector. They have a wide variety of work-life skills, but transitioning to the civilian workforce is often daunting, particularly for young enlisted service members. They do not want a handout, but rather an opportunity for a fresh start in their post-military lives for themselves and for their families. The information technology field is one of many ideally suited to veterans, regardless of their occupational specialty while they are serving in the military. In the Department of Defense, commercial technology is used to manage mission planning, human resources, weapons systems and operations and maintenance, supply chains, finance. Most of these functions common to virtually every commercial business. However, veterans' character traits developed at a very young age while they're serving are the extraordinary differentiators for new hire considerations in the commercial sector. They strive to be leaders. They learn how to work as a team, and they understand how foundational that is to achieving success in virtually any endeavor. They constantly learned and mastered a multitude of cross-functional skills and quickly adapted in dynamic environments. Possibly, most notably, is their grasp and acceptance of accountability. Accountability for their decisions, accountability to their organizations, their leadership, and their fellow workers. About the NS2 Serves program that I chair. SAP National Security Services funded and established this nonprofit organization in 2014, specifically to train and find employment for veterans in high-tech careers. We as well actively seek commercial partners outside of non-government support to scale the program. Our program targets enlisted men and women from all military services and all subspecialties. We arm graduates with SAP technology certifications and with other transition attributes so that they can complete well for technology support jobs in the thousands of companies and government organizations that utilize SAP software. The NS2 Serves program has many key differentiators. All of the details of the program I provided in my written testimony. But the program is an in-resident, 11-week program. Over the course of this 11 weeks, the veterans, they pay nothing for the program. They just need to arrive with the will to succeed. It leverages the veterans' penchant for teamwork. Participants can and do help each other with transition and with academics. The CEO and virtually every member of our 400-plus person company is an active mentor in this program. Graduates with their consultant certifications have all been hired into government or commercial jobs with a minimum salary, starting salary of $60,000, inclusive of medical and retirement benefits. By the end of this week, we will have graduated 100 graduates from nearly 20 states, some disabled, several with service dogs, at a cost of approximately $15,000 per student. Certainly a worthwhile investment for substantive career, family, emotional stability, stress relief, self-confidence, and the potential avoidance of dependence on federal and state support programs. A few recommendations. A more robust centralized job opportunity website, like veterans.gov, but easily accessible and usable, managed under the strong proactive partnership between government and commercial industry. Its utility measured by employment statistics across all demographics of veterans. The Defense Department should shepherd veterans into this site before their separation. Investing in veterans, I would advocate our model program. Every graduate is in a career-centric job at no financial expense to the veteran or to their GI Bill benefits. The commercial sector can take this task on similarly. Job qualifications. For commercial sector HR departments, veterans should be better valued for their military education, their experience, and their work ethic. They remain extraordinarily educable and motivated. They just need the opportunity. Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member Takano, members of the subcommittee, I would again like to thank you for the opportunity to testify today. Veterans have much more to offer this country above that which they have already given. Thank you for your continued public service and for what you do for veterans. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Admiral. And lastly, Mr. Bowers, I want to thank you for your service in the United States Marine Corps and you're now recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Chairman, ranking member, and members of the committee, thank you so much for inviting me here today to talk to you about the Uber Military Program and our endeavors to support veterans and military families as they go through the many transitions, many of which I went through myself. It's been many years since I sat before this committee, and it's an honor and privilege to be back. I actually think I'm sitting in the exact same chair, so that's exciting as well. I'd like to take a few moments and share with you why I am here today, how I became involved with the Uber Military Program. It was during my second tour in Iraq when I found myself on the outskirts of Fallujah and was pinned behind a Humvee. That Humvee eventually pulled away and took away my cover as my rifle scope was hit by a sniper's bullet. Needless to say, the Marine that drove away did not get a 5-star rating. I really hope that one would stick a little better. It was a few months later, though, that I found myself back in Washington, D.C. after these incredible experiences overseas, and I was preparing to go back to school. As a proud community college student, I was taking the next step to be able to finish my degree, and I found a window between the time that I came home to when classes started. I had to work small jobs here and there that didn't have flexible timing, didn't have the right sort of work that I was looking for to be able to make that transition back into school. I really needed something to fill that gap. This time really impacted my life greatly. It was a time when I was already dealing with trying to transition back, and not having that flexibility and mobility with respect to timing for work opportunities impacted me greatly. Traditionally, veterans during this time end up spending their hard-earned savings. They end up going into credit card debt. They end up basically sitting back and spending all of their hard-earned money to be able to fill this window of time. This is what inevitably led me to the Uber Military Program. In September 2014, Uber announced that we were aiming to partner with 50,000 members of the military community to include their families. We created this target because we knew the skills, the work ethic, and integrity exemplified by our nation's veterans was unmatched. Frankly, we knew this would be good for business. This was based on data tracking that we did in cities with high veteran populations, similar to San Diego, where we knew that compared to their civilian peers, veterans that were driving on the platform had longer supply hours and higher customer ratings. Focusing on veterans and military families was a business decision, but more importantly, it was a way to empower this community with the flexibility and mobility that they'd never had before. After just under 18 months of engaging with the military community, Uber achieved its goal 6 weeks ahead of schedule. As of this morning, more than 56,000 self-identified veterans and military family members have signed up to drive with Uber, and over 50% of them have taken a trip on the platform. All of that work has resulted in an astounding $155 million worth of earnings since we started tracking this data. That's earnings going directly into their pockets, similar to my situation at times when they may need it most. So how did we reach this goal? To start, we designated and engaged with more than 60 Uber Military Program leaders from our city-based teams, many of which are veterans themselves. These individuals led the charge in their respective cities, working with local and national organizations, base commanders, and community leaders. We partnered with blue-chip organizations that support the military community, such as the Chamber of Commerce Hiring Our Heroes program, the Blue Star Families, and the American Military Families Association, to name a few. We also created the Uber Military Advisory Board, which was chaired by former Secretary of Defense Bob Gates, with the likes of General Stanley McChrystal, Admiral Eric Olson, and many others that have helped guide us through this program. As we look to the future of Uber Military, we're setting new goals thanks to all of the work that we've done thus far that will impact this community. Our new mission is as follows: $500 million in earnings to driver partners who have served in the military and their families by 2020. Next, increase access to reliable transportation in and around military communities to reduce alcohol-related incidents on and around these communities. Finally, make Uber even more rewarding for the drivers with military backgrounds. I'd like to conclude my testimony today on a little bit more of a personal note as well. After leaving service, I knew that I wanted to do something that would truly make a difference in the lives of veterans and their families. I knew that by fulfilling this dream and being able to continue to engage with those that I served with, there would be unique opportunities that would come up. That unique opportunity is the Uber platform. It's something that we have never seen before that can support this community in a very different manner, and I believe is having a profound impact on veterans and military families. I'm proud to say that a technology platform of this nature has never economically empowered this community in such a manner before, and I'm excited that this is just the beginning. As we continue our mission, I'm enthusiastic to go to work every day and provide the opportunities that our veterans and military families deserve. I'd like to thank you all for your time. I look forward to any questions, and please refer to my testimony for additional details. Thank you.
Well, thank you all for your remarks, and I'm going to now yield myself 5 minutes for questions. I do appreciate some of the things I heard here today, talking about recognizing capabilities and possibilities for our veterans beyond their military specialty. And I think that's important to recognize because they bring a lot of talents to the plate and can be trained into virtually any field if given the opportunity. Mr. Bowers, just a quick question for you. Will we be seeing a icon on our choices for vehicle and driver to say Uber veteran or Uber military at some time in the future?
So we have actually looked at this endeavor, but what I would like to point to is something that we actually did on Veterans Day, where we allowed our veteran partner drivers, riders, everybody who was engaged on the Uber app on Veterans Day to understand the sacrifices that these individuals have made. We worked with the Joining Forces initiative to raise money to help homeless veterans get to and from employment opportunities. We did this by working very closely with the National Coalition of Homeless Veterans to identify groups that had transportation issues, and it was a huge success. That was a way that we were able to look at the technology platform and be able to identify what we can do to be able to have an impact on our riders and drivers. One of the things we've been exploring is the opportunity to allow veterans to basically connect with riders and let them know that they are a veteran on the front end of the trip. This is something that we've been thinking about for some time, but what we found that I think is rather unique is we get very caught up in being the digital tool. But it's when you get in that car that you end up asking the individual that's driving you, hey, how come you drive with Uber? And a tremendous amount of veterans that drive on the platform love that opportunity to engage with their civilian peers and really start to climatize back into civilian life just by having candid conversations with individuals behind the wheel. So it is something that we are definitely looking at. It's something that we think would be rather unique. And I'd like to go as far as to be able to say what branch of service they're in because, you know, no bias, but being a Marine, it's a pretty proud thing to be in.
Well, I'll just answer that with a hua. But anyway, Admiral, NS2 serves as focusing on enlisted service members. What's the reason for that? Is there a distinct advantage or trying to create more opportunity for enlisted?
I think the latter. I mean, yeah, the unemployment rate for enlisted men and women across all services is below everyone else in the service. So I think we, you know, as a smaller company, we wanted to focus somewhere where it's essentially a transition from a kind of a blue collar to a white collar. So, and again, recognizing the qualities that they have and their ability to learn, particularly as a team, we thought we would focus on them, and so that's kind of our initial focus. The others that have access to the course, Gold Star spouses are as well acceptable into the course, and we have had actually 2 young junior officers go through the program, so we don't cut them out, but they were extraordinary cases where they had significant, you know, PTS type situations, and we're looking for something to do, and so they're off and on their way in great careers.
Excellent. Mr. Bergen, when someone graduates from your academy, what type of positions are they qualified to take on?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chairman. What differentiates the Microsoft Software and Systems Academy is our learnings track. When I attended the Microsoft Software and Systems Academy, I took the software development learning track. So after my 16 weeks, I interviewed with Microsoft specifically for software development job. There's also going to be 5 different learning tracks where you would have CRM, Power BI, and some of the other high in-demand roles that we're seeing within our company that we'll need to fill over the next 5 years.
Thank you. And it sounds like each of you, and you may want to comment quickly in the little time we have left, are making efforts to not only capture the veteran into employment, but to retain them and promote them up the chain. And we'll start with you, Mr. Huseman.
Yes, we think it's important to provide career mentorship activities once veterans are hired. Our Amazon Warriors network, internal employee network, we think is very valuable to that, to provide coaching once they're on board. Also, our Career Choice program, which is something that we're very excited about, provides our employees with the opportunity to get an education in an in-demand field, and that's regardless of whether that is relevant to a career at Amazon.
If anyone else would care to comment on the structure of your programs, would appreciate it real quick.
No, I think creating, just creating the opportunity for them to get into the works. I don't worry about young men and women veterans as far as competing with everyone else. They'll do extraordinarily well. They have that penchant as well to like to win and try to, overachieve. And so thus far, our program's only been in place for 2 years now, but the feedback from employers is extraordinary. Every single one of them have been very, very, very positive, and they will work their way up in its career opportunities for the rest of their lives.
Bergen?
And if I can speak to that really quickly, Mr. Chairman, I've only been with Microsoft for 2 years, and I've been promoted twice since getting there. The continued mentorship and support of the Microsoft military community, coupled with just our career training and advancement programs within the company, is something I just really took advantage of and tested, and it's proven to be a very valuable opportunity. And it's one of our transition stories that we really try to champion to veterans looking for the same opportunities.
Thank you. I now recognize the ranking member for any questions he may have.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Bowers, thank you for your service and your continued commitment to helping veterans and to find an easier way than you had going to school and supporting yourself. I want to ask you one question. Do you have any information on Uber use among veterans attempting to get to a VA facility for an appointment?
This is something that we've been discussing quite a bit to be able to understand how we could help the VA solve some of their transportation issues. So I'd love to be able to follow up with you with some more detail. I don't have it directly in front of me, but we have been looking at veterans who have been using getting to and from VA facilities. We're able to do something that's rather unique where we can actually geotag around VA facilities and identify where veterans may be getting dropped off. This is something that we think would be incredibly useful, and we've been in discussions with the VA about how we can possibly pilot a program specifically that would help veterans get to and from their appointments. In Milcon VA, there's actually some language that is put in there that actually gives the VA the authorization to be able to pilot some of these programs with us.
Well, great. As you know, it's been a big issue with our health appointments. Mr. Bernard, thank you for your service as well, and especially for your 11 months serving in Helmand Province. What a story that is. You mentioned that some graduates go on to school rather than go straight onto a job after the 16-month training you have with Microsoft. I assume this is where GI Bill benefits come into play. Is that true?
Thank you for that question. For some servicemen and women, after they complete their 16 weeks, we do earn credit hours. And for them, going on to university is the best option for them and their families. So we have seen that.
Okay, and to your knowledge, are GI Bill benefits being used during MSSA training for any purpose, like obtaining certifications?
When I went through, I can only speak for my experience. When I went through, I used a bit of my GI Bill benefits as a part of the training program. And what I saw that as was an investment in me and my family and our future.
So you were able to use your GI Bill benefits even though you hadn't separated yet from the military?
That is correct.
Okay. At some point, I'd like to understand more about that. I think the committee should look into that. I'm also interested in your comment that the skills you acquired in the Microsoft software and systems accounting, the MSSA program, they were not Microsoft specific, but rather industry recognized credentials that would allow you portability. Can you expand on that on this issue some and give us an idea of what skills are involved that you learned?
Thank you again for that question. One thing I really enjoyed about the academy when I attended was that you had learning tracks. So I was really interested in software development, app development, and developing for the cloud. And that's agnostic to any platform. Once you have those skills in the technology sector, you can take them anywhere. And each instructor was geared to teaching you how to do this, not specifically to a platform. One of the benefits of our mentorship-based program was I got to actually work with software engineers at Microsoft who would show me what they do day to day on the job, which helped me really dial in to what I needed to accomplish.
Well, that's wonderful. Why would Microsoft fund an IT school that feeds other companies' talent pipelines? Why would they do that?
You know, that just touches me really personally because, you know, when I first heard about this program, I thought it was too good to be true. And here I am. You know, when I took it home to my wife, she didn't believe me either. And ultimately, the Microsoft Military Affairs Department, when they sat with me initially, they said, Bernard, this is our investment in the veterans community. We know that you guys are sharp. We know that you're hardworking, you're focused, you're willing to do this, and we're willing to take a chance investing in you.
Well, do graduates actually get jobs with Microsoft's competitors?
Absolutely.
Wow. that's
Absolutely.
amazing. What do you think is the major reason you succeeded at Microsoft after graduating from the MSSA?
I would say, as everyone spoke to up here, the ongoing mentorship is very unique. And our Microsoft military veterans, we really just pool around each other and just support each other's transition goals and our career plans.
Well, you mentioned the high level of support you got in Microsoft's Academy in soft skills like creating a resume and being coached on interviewing. You say that TAP isn't as helpful in these areas because commanding officers need their troops to be on duty until their last day. Do you feel this is a widespread problem? Is it getting better or worse in your opinion?
That's a very good question, and I can only speak to my experience. In those last few months on active duty, you are in a whirlwind of things that must be done, and that's department mandated. TAP being one of those things, where TAP was very helpful in some ways. In my experience, it didn't provide me a clear path to what I was going to do next, and that's where the MSSA filled that gap with a clear path of what I was going to be doing next.
With the Chairman's indulgence, may I ask one more question, sir? I know that there are pilot programs planned to offer courses in the evening so spouses can attend. Are MSSA courses offered to spouses now?
At the moment, those are plans that we're working with members of Congress and even with the different districts to figure out how best to implement, and we'd love to follow up with more details on that.
Great, thank you. I yield back, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for allowing me the extra time.
Mr. Costello, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Let me just pick up where Mr. Takano left off. Can you just describe, Mr. Bergen, the role that your CO played, and also how important the referral from your CO was and his awareness with the MSSA program?
Thank you, Congressman, for that question. For every commanding officer, and the Admiral will speak to that, giving up a body is a very difficult decision. So to have Colonel Hodges' buy-in and belief in myself and the other 22 men and women who attended Cohort 1 of this program was losing some of his best servicemen and women, but he saw the importance of making sure our exit out of the military was well planned, just as our entry into the military was. So without that colonel's buy-in, and that would be one of my recommendations, just supporting our senior leaders to make those decisions from base to base on how they assist with their servicemen and women transitioning from the military.
Right. You also mentioned something else, and I'm going to start with Mr. Bowers, whom I want to thank again for taking the time to come meet with me in my office last week. And the question would be directed to all four of you. I thought you really hit on something, talking about how important it is for the working spouse to feel that whatever program you're in, whatever employer that you're with, that it's in a location and that from a work-life balance, there's also opportunity for what your spouse may be pursuing or where they're working. Just describe for me in general terms, or be as specific as you would like, on what the winning formula is for these types of programs in the companies that you work for, so that when we speak to other companies, that, you know, all of us have companies come in, we want to be helpful to veterans, we have a veterans set-aside program for this, or we help them in this way or provide opportunity here. Share with me, if you could, the importance that providing that sort of opportunity, or accommodating, if you will, the spouse and the role that it plays in how fulfilled you feel with the company that you're at, given that variable.
So I can speak to the uniqueness that Uber brings to the table with respect to the flexibility and mobility for military spouses, and say that it was about a year ago that we launched the Uber Military Families Coalition, and this was a partnership with 4 organizations: the Chamber of Commerce, Hiring Our Heroes, Blue Star Families, National Military Families Association and the American Military Partners Association. This was born out of what we discovered, that many military spouses were leaning towards driving with Uber as an opportunity because the average military family moves 8 times over a 20-year career. Never before has there been an opportunity for folks to be able to go into a new town and be able to have that flexibility and mobility, which is driving with Uber. Additionally, military spouses and families as a whole deal with a tremendous amount during deployments as well. So spouses love the flexibility and mobility about being able to drop the kids off at daycare, whatever the case may be, while their loved one is deployed. This was very surprising to us. So we are going to continue to focus on military families, on and around military installations, to make sure that they have this opportunity available to them. We are going to continue our partnerships to make sure that we're getting the word out to folks that this is available. Really, it's at a unique time right now as we are seeing operational tempo and the number of deployments going down, but we're also seeing this surge that military families want to be employed. They want to be a part of something. They want to be able to do something for their communities, and the Uber platform seems to be something that they're very interested in. So thank you for your question.
And Congressman, military spouses are very valuable to Amazon. They have to deal with flexibility and constant change, and those skills do prove valuable to a company like Amazon that is fast changing. We have what we call virtual contact centers, which are customer support specialists that can work from home. And those jobs are very well suited to military spouses. We also make a focus on providing quality jobs for military spouses. I think one great example is Jen Harrison Doss, who she leads a team of recruiters based in Seattle from her home in Abilene, Texas, where she is stationed with her husband. And she's actually been promoted in the company. And so I think military spouses bring great skills, and we're very proud to have them and to continue to hire them.
Probably one of the big advantages of the program that I'm involved with is SAP software is just prolific, and I think the numbers are over nearly 75% of all the Fortune 4,000 companies have SAP software. We usually take one or two, hire one or two. SAP North America hires a couple, but most of them go to companies all over that are anywhere. So I mean, the global ecosystem of SAP, who use their enterprise resource planning software, supply chain logistics, virtually every company has that. So that just, in my mind, that just creates an extraordinary ecosystem of jobs that veterans can go work at wherever they are. The other thing, and certainly in technical, working virtually is very common. I personally do it, as my wife rightly deserves. She gets 51% of the vote of where I live after our 27 moves. And so I think the technology community and the ability to work virtually, and in our case, candidly, I'm somewhat agnostic to where the veterans find jobs. I don't really care. I just want them to get good, viable work where they can take care of their families and their families have opportunities. My hope personally is that our program, as we can expand it and build it, that spouses are as well available to the course at this point in its kind of infant stages. We're just focusing on those enlisted men and women that are veterans. But creating the ecosystem and the opportunity, whether they end up in SAP working there, I don't know. I suspect, like every other person that leaves the military, 50% end up in another job after a year. I think that's probably will be the case, but they will be ready for virtually any job, I think, based on their helping them with their transition.
Mr. McNerney, you're now recognized for 5 minutes.
Well, I thank the chairman, and I really thank the witnesses for your service and for your testimony today. It's a real bright spot in what seems sometimes can be a treacherous committee assignment. But what I want to say is, Mr. Huseman, I want to acknowledge your 25,000 veterans goal. It's very, very good. How much training does it take, say, to get somebody that has no prior experience in the cloud to work on cloud activities?
In addition to our pledge to hire 25,000 veterans and military spouses, we've also pledged to train 10,000 service members and veterans and military spouses in Amazon Web Services certification. And so it's an industry-recognized certification in cloud computing, and it's many companies either prefer or require that you have this Amazon Web Services certification. So companies like Netflix and GE and Adobe either prefer or require that. That commitment is valued at over $7 million. So we think in addition to hiring veterans, training them in cloud computing is also something we're very proud of.
Well, What do you think the retention is for veterans that have been through the program? In fact, you all might want to take an answer at that. What retention seems to be a problem with veterans in their first job or two. Do these tech opportunities look different in that regard?
But definitely, I think building an internal support network is very important to make sure that once they're at the company that they have mentorship and career development opportunities. That's something that we have tried to focus on and make sure that we provide opportunities for employees to grow within the company.
I would just add that, driving on the Uber platform is rather unique because we're one of the few that we of course want people on the platform, but we aren't too focused on retention. If someone comes and drives on our platform and then ends up dropping off, it means they may have gone back to school, they may have taken advantage of an additional opportunity. So we see our numbers go up and down. A good example being our numbers right now, which are 56,000 folks who have signed up on the platform. Half of those have taken a first trip. So that means there are many folks that are on the platform who haven't actually driven with Uber, but it's always there. It's ready for them should they need it at some point. So we've kind of seen those numbers go up and down, but I will say compared to their civilian peers, veterans seem to have a much higher conversion rate than their civilian peers, which for us is a way to identify that this is a type of model that many veterans and military families really needed. Recently, the number that you mentioned, I believe other panelists mentioned, was that veterans are leaving their first job out of the military after 1 year. It's like upwards of 50%, I believe. The Institute of Veterans and Military Families just came out with this number not too long ago. We're often wondering if that is the franticness of veterans as they're getting out of the military to take the first job that comes their way. And it's programs such as these that my panelists are discussing that are critical to make sure that veterans are getting into these jobs where they can leverage their skill sets. So we're hoping to be able to, A, act as a buffer for folks who may be taking part in these programs, and then additionally make sure that their skill sets are being leveraged so we can get that 50% number down.
Go ahead.
And I'd love to step in here, Congressman, and I think, me personally, seeing firsthand and going through the MSSA program, that's one of the things that really stood out. When I sat with members of the Microsoft military community who was sharing what the program would ultimately be, they envisioned a career. And that's what really got me in that first cohort and many of my peers who went through with me. We envisioned growing with the company the same way we grew with the military. And to my testimony, it has been that way for me.
So, as a committee, I mean, we have a limited amount of power to help you out there, but maybe there are legislative tools that we could use that would help. If you have any of them, I'd like to hear them out, or if you don't have them on your mind, but you'd like to forward those to me, it would be very helpful to our work here.
Congressman, I may take that. We have two principal recommendations. One is that service members receive technical training before separation from service. When they leave the service, we want them to have careers and not just jobs. So technical training before separation, and even for those that aren't in technical fields, they may have an aptitude for that. And so we would encourage that. The second thing is that we would encourage greater partnerships between the private sector and the military. We'd encourage you to take a look at the Camo to Commerce program, which is out of the Joint Base Lewis McChord in Washington State. We've had great success with that program. For example, service members who have participated in that program, they've received job offers from us at 3 times the rate that service members who haven't participated in the program. So it provides service members with very valuable skills, and our Amazon Web Services recruiters very much seek out those participants. I think that's one example of a great partnership between the private sector and the military, and I would encourage looking at the rates for that.
Thank you. Chairman?
I think at the same time, some are not going to have that opportunity to get technology training, but I think it's important if any possibility is there, then they should. But as Bernard, you mentioned, some people don't have the time before they get out. But I do think someone alluded to the fact, hey, the Transition Assistance Program is not effective at beginning the transition of men and women in the service into the private sector. They need to talk about getting them into these websites and getting them going, on the end of their career, so they can in fact connect with commercial organizations, because most of them won't have the time, and they don't know if they get into that gap, if they leave and have no help before they leave the service. They need that help about jobs, not writing resumes, but in fact opportunities at jobs, and there's companies out there that necessarily do that. And so I think that's an important piece. This is a government commercial, this is a commercial responsibility in my mind. It should not be necessarily a government responsibility to have to, the commercial industry is there, they're the benefactors of the veterans when they get out of the military and serve in their organizations. We just have to convince them of that and make them aware of it, and I think the program will go, will go a long way.
Mr. Bosch, you are now recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I'd really like to go, first off, let me say thank you, not only for those of you that serve, but also thank you for providing this service. But I want to make sure, and I know we've touched on a little bit, but there were two things that were mentioned. You can expand on those or not, but actual barriers that are blocking the opportunity for any of our veterans coming out. I know one was mentioned, the transition assistance. I was a radar repairman, okay? I worked up until the very last day that I separated. And trying to then all of a sudden change to think, I was lucky enough that I was going into a family business. I didn't have to be trained in that. I went home and went into family business. But what other barriers are out there that we can actually do to help you continue to do what you're doing and make sure that our veterans are employed?
Well, I just think, I think the model, I think we lean on the veterans pension for learning and achieving and winning and succeeding, and they want to do that. So our program, there's Marine infantry, Army infantry, truck drivers, mechanics, all types of people, and we give them a test to see if they have a level of aptitude in software. And we fudge it a little bit to get them in there. But the fact is, when they all work together as a team, and you would be extraordinarily impressed with the diversity of the group of people, all services are represented in every class, men and women. First, they succeed together, and they begin the transition together, when they're moving out. And so they have a penchant to learn that. I'm a knuckle dragon frog man. I had no understanding at all of technology when I got out, but I'm somewhat educable, and I'm leaning into this thing, and it's extraordinary to see the men and women, enlisted men and women, have never done anything technology-wise, albeit this generation is very savvy at technology. They picked it up, they learned it, they do it in the military all the time, and we've all experienced where you into something that you're clueless of, but you learn it, you pick it up, and you run with it. So I don't think we cancel anybody out for moving into this opportunity. I just, my stress is first in the veterans, the .org organization, it just needs to be easy to use for a veteran. And community and companies have to partner with it so that they can have an easy time of going into it, finding where they're getting their resumes in there, finding someone to talk to. They need to talk to people because they don't know how to transition very well. So however you can advocate for that, whether it's the veterans.org gov site that's more usable, more user-friendly, and companies say they want to help, and so they should help, and they can easily do this, I think, just by investing a little bit, and it doesn't matter that an infantry guy, don't think an infantry guy can't roll in there and be a technology wizard. They make up for that in a lot of other qualities, and they learn it very fast. So.
Congressman, I would also encourage the subcommittee and DOD to look at the utilization rates for this program and how successful they are. I think the Camo to Commerce program at Joint Base Lewis McChord, we think would be a valuable case study. I think figuring out how many service members participate in the program, what jobs that they get after they leave service, are those jobs paying more than those in similar specialties who did not participate in those programs? We think they're looking at that data and seeing what works and building upon what does work would be very important.
And if I could just add real quickly on the TAP component, as someone that's gone through TAP multiple times through my many deployments with the Marine Corps, I have to say it always felt like death by 1,000 links. It's incredibly overwhelming for veterans to know what opportunities are out there and what tools they can leverage to be able to make that transition. And as has been mentioned by my colleagues, it's a very difficult time, very stressful time, whether it be coming back from a combat deployment as a reservist to an active duty member leaving the military after 20 years. I'd also ask the committee to put some thought into something that we have realized is sort of a tangible benefit with respect to a platform such as Uber, is that veterans are able to continue to serve fellow veterans. And I speak with our partner drivers on a regular basis and hear that they want to be able to do that. And something that we've discovered is on and around military communities, it's often difficult for partner drivers to have access on and off military installations. This is something that we're looking at as a way to reduce DUIs on and around military installations. We've met with multiple base commanders who think this would be a unique model to be able to look at. And we currently have some language as being reviewed right now where we would have the Department of Defense come up with these rules. This came about because so many veterans live on and around military installations that this piqued our interest, that partner drivers came back and said, look, you know, I don't like the feeling I get when folks don't know that there's a tool available to keep them off the roads. You might be aware, a lot of military bases, you drive right outside and there's car dealerships all over the place. The reason for that is because there's a tremendous amount of, there's a lack of transportation options on these installations, which ultimately leads to servicemen and women, their families, being put in a position that's a little difficult, and that's something that we believe we could alleviate.
Thank you.
Ms. Radewagen, you're now recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I, too, would like to welcome the witnesses. Thank you for appearing today, and thank you for your service. My question here is for the entire panel. Back in my home district in American Samoa, 10% of our entire population is military veterans. My question is, what are your companies doing to ensure that our veterans who live in the United States territories are being included in these opportunities? Could we start with Mr. Bergen?
Congresswoman, thank you for that question. One thing I would like to start with is, being from the U.S. Virgin Islands, I clearly understand that perspective, because if I found myself going back to Virginia and then back to the United States Virgin Islands, having an opportunity like this could possibly miss me. What I also want to highlight is Microsoft looking at the community-based model of the MSSA. And as I mentioned before, we're going to follow up with your offices to just drill down in how we get to roll that out to more places. That way, our MSSA program isn't limited to the installations that it's currently on, and it's serving our community at large.
Thank you.
Yes, Congresswoman. Our hiring pledge and our training pledge to train service members and veterans and military spouses in Amazon Web Services certification is definitely open and welcome to everyone, including those in the territories in American Samoa. We would love to come and kind of speak with you more about that and how we can get your constituents involved in these training programs. And I'd also note that we have a number of small sellers who sell on the Amazon platform, including from America Samoa, and that is a great way, if you have a product or if you have an idea, to reach out to consumers and our customers all across the world selling via e-commerce.
Thank you. Admiral Kernan?
Yes, I mean, our program, again, it's only 2 years in the making, and again, this Friday is our graduation of 22 more veterans, which puts us to 100. And we've got, right around 20 states represented. We pay virtually for everything, and that includes travel. The commitment is the movement for 11-week course that we run actually here in Leesburg, Virginia. So the course is there. We actually have to fly everybody in anyway for it. They live there, they breathe there, we give them a stipend while they're there, and when they graduate, they have a certification, and then we can leverage the ecosystem that I discussed earlier. So it's open virtually to anybody. It's still kind of new, so proliferating that information is it's a little incredulous to a lot of people. You mean you guys pay for everything on this thing? Well, the answer is yes, we do. It's one model. There's lots of great models to do this, but again, I'm very focused in the selection process to make sure there's diversity in terms of geography, ethnicity, the states that they come from. It's completely open to everybody anywhere, and we take care of the movement of people to and from the course.
Mr. Bowers?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for the question. And I'd highlight, if I could real quickly, how young Uber is as a company. We have really only been around for about 5 years, and the product that our Uber military program has really grown off of is UberX, which is just about 3 years old. In that time, we've been able to expand to 189 cities, and we're going to continue to grow and reach out as far as we can, and specifically to help veterans and military families. So I would love to be able to follow up with you with respect to what we might be able to do in Guam specifically for vets that are there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Well, if there's no further questions, I want to thank you all for your testimony today, as well as your thoughtful responses to our questions. I look forward to working together to not only connect our transitioning service members to these opportunities at an earlier stage, but also recruiting older veterans and spouses and training them for these jobs. And I believe we all understand the positive assets that veterans bring to the table and to the civilian economy in every aspect. And I believe the tech space is a wonderful fit for many of the men and women who have served. Admiral, I think it's probably been quite a while since your knuckles hit the ground, I have to say. That would surprise me. But before we close, I do ask unanimous consent that statements submitted for the record from the Internet Association and Engine be included in today's hearing record. Hearing no objection, so ordered. I want to thank my colleagues for being here. And finally, I ask unanimous consent that all members have 5 legislative days in which to revise and extend their remarks and include any extraneous material on today's hearing. Without objection, so ordered. This hearing is now adjourned.